Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Combeluzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. This session of our Oktoberfest Fall Mining Showcase will feature South Atlantic Gold, Inc. South Atlantic Gold is primarily a gold explorer and is focused on advancing its flagship Pedra Branca project in Brazil. It also owns the Big Kid copper gold project in British Columbia. From the company, we have with us Douglas Meirelles, President and CEO, and a director. I'll note that if attendees have questions, to just type them in through the Q&A link and we'll get to them at the end of the session. This presentation is also available on the conference website. And with that, I'll turn it over to Douglas to guide us through the story.
Thank you, Taylor. Thanks everyone for joining the presentation here. Please, before I start, please do your homework. There's going to be some forward-looking statements here. Our company, for those of you who don't know us, we have two assets. We're a gold and copper exploring company listed on the TSX Venture Exchange. Our two assets, one of it is the Big Kid project. This is a greenfields exploration asset. It has a copper gold porphyry anomaly there. It's a 4,000 hectares property. It has some really interesting results, especially at depth. The Pedra Branca project is our flagship asset now. It has it's pretty massive. It's 40,000 hectares, and within it there's a 40-kilometer shear zone there. You got 3 well-defined targets. There's 25 prospective tenements in total. There's been a lot of work done into date. It's an asset that also has those near surface high grade results. You know, you got 12 meters at 7 grams per ton, and another one at 5 grams per ton, but several intersections at around 4 grams per ton, including one intersection at 31 grams per ton there as well. The Pedra Branca asset has a maiden resource that we put out more for construction reasons between us and Jaguar. It has a 4 million tons at 1.38 grams per ton gold. Our market cap right now, I won't go into a lot of details here, but I can't stress enough how the entry point is excellent right now. So our current valuation is extremely low. Our current valuation is obviously not properly reflecting what we have, but this is a trend. And just to answer the question why we were trending lower than what we expect. I mean, aside from market conditions, there was a great change of hands in our shares. So some people that did not understand a lot about Brazil and wanted to go into other directions. So we had more than half the company traded in the last few months. It's always important to touch when talking about, especially talking about Brazil, is always important to touch on ESG. So ESG done properly, especially on where we are and the communities that we have around, it will save time and money. And it already has and will continue to save time and money. So I do spend on a weekly basis, I do spend some time with our decisions there, considering a lot about ESG, especially being Brazilian. So going ahead, what we plan to do is really continue focus on Pedra Branca. We expect to really tell the story of what Pedra Branca really is. And Pedra Branca has two paths there. There's two paths that are out there. One of it is it has the potential to be one of the largest trends, mineralized trends in Brazil. So with a 40-kilometer shear zone, I mean, that's a lot of land to cover. And with the last program that we put out, every three drill holes, or let's say every 4 drill holes, 3 came back with positive results. So I think that Pedra Branca has barely said its initial story here. And going forward into the southern areas there, to the greenfields areas, I think there's much more that Pedra Branca can tell us. The other path that this asset also has the ability to provide us is with the mining concessions that we have. So we have 3 mining concessions there. We expect to continue to advance those mining concessions, keep those licenses up. So we're probably going to do a little bit of metallurgy there. We're probably going to do a little bit of measure and indicated drilling. So it's infill drilling to convert what we have to measure and indicated. But again, it's so fortunate to have an asset that you have, two paths that you can take, and in a very efficient way. What Pedra Branca is, and I'm going to a little bit more detail here. So for those of you who don't know, it's located on the Ceará state. It's about 280 kilometers away from Fortaleza. I mean, Ceará is one of the rich, let's say, richer states in the northeast Brazil. So we're very fortunate to have an asset that has three little towns around us. They don't actually intersect with the asset itself, so that's another positive. But you got around 120,000 people around it. You got a paved road up until the project. You got power lines. You got mine supply centers, labor. There's everything that we can ask around it. Historically, this asset has some really nice work done by previous explorers, and they're quite they were good explorers there. You got Jaguar, you got Extracta, you got Falcon Bridge. But effectively, what we did in the last program, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here, is to consolidate everything that was done in the past and prepare ourselves to the future of this asset. When we look at what was done on the phase one, okay, we consolidated about 600 intercepts. Now, phase one for this company was a very, very efficient exploration program with just $1 million and a little over 8 months' time. We ended up with the 600 intercepts. We've got 3 main targets covered there, including 2 new discoveries for the northern targets there called the Igrejinha and Meirelles. And all of these holes and everything that we consolidated has an average depth of 30 meters. So if you consider the resource that we put out, and we put it out for contractual reasons, at an average depth of 30 meters, we ended up with 180,000 ounces. I mean, it's not something that you tread lightly here. I mean, it's an asset that with such small exploration program, it already tells a story this big. It's not an asset that you can just look at our company and say, wow, you got 180,000 ounces. That's not a lot, but consider that it was only $1 million program. We consolidated a few of these past results, the one that we could QA/QC. And again, we ended up with on a 12-kilometer trend. So the entire trend here is 40 kilometers. We focus on 12 kilometers alone, and that gives us this entire 180,000 ounces. Another thing that's interesting about this consolidation here is that this inferred resource that we put out comprises of 39 mineralized zones. I mean, in between them, we got nothing that we could add because there was no drilling. So it's such an extensive asset. It gives us a great opportunity to know where we're going to put our drill holes for the next little while here. So again, looking at what we're going to do in the next little while here is, number one, really explore along strike the southern areas. I mean, if we can prove, and this is a major catalyst here, if we can show that we have the extension of this trend to the southern areas, I mean, that will put us in a position that we have one of the largest trends in South America in a company like worth what right now is what, $3 million. So it's amazing. The second thing that this asset also allows us is by having those mine concession stages on those 3 little tenements there, and within those we got the 180,000 ounces. It allows us to keep moving ahead with those licenses. It allows us to keep adding more ounces, and probably even converting to measured and indicated. So we got the 2 paths here in Pedra Branca. It's a great asset to have. On top of that, we still have Big Kid. So Big Kid is a copper gold porphyry project. Okay, and by being a copper gold, this is, if you look at what copper has been trending lately here, is trending up again. Back in June this year, we took a second look at Big Kid, and we reconsolidated that data there, and we basically identified that this asset, by being located here so close to Merit, you got great access and everything, but it's close to a company called Kodiak Copper. Okay, and Kodiak Copper has a project called the MPD copper porphyry there, and the MPD, they've made a huge discovery in copper in Kodiak Copper there, and that geology, when we compare to Big Kid, it has much of the same. It's very similar. It's very similar. So when we consolidated all the historical, we compared that to a few companies that were around. I mean, Big Kid is an asset that, although it's greenfields, still wants to tell a story. So one of the holes there, you got 541 continuous meters at around 0.9% copper. You got another hole at 200 meters, another hole 200 meters at the 0.11, the other one with 0.13 copper, 13% copper. So Big Kid, when we look at this asset early in the summer, we said, this has the potential to be another MPD there. It's cash intensive because it's so deep, but it has that potential. So when we put out this reanalysis on Big Kid, we actually got a few calls from several companies that wanted to acquire this asset. So we're in constant looking for options. We're constantly negotiating with these other companies, but I want to highlight again that Big Kid is a little bit too greenfields to be our priority, but it is an asset that there's a story to be told, and whether or not we're going to farm it out, we're going to do it ourselves, that is still to be decided. But our focus right now is really at Pedra Branca. Okay, so we only have a short period of time here, but to wrap it up, I can't stress enough how attractive our entry point is. I can't stress enough, by having two assets, you got a gold and copper assets here at a current market cap valuation. It's such an opportunity. And if you check on our board here, and we actually have an AGM coming late this week, we're going to have a couple of changes that are proposed. So this is public information, but we have a few things coming in the next during this fall here, and I do encourage all of you to stay tuned, because with these two assets, with Pedra Branca and the future that we got ahead of us, it's a very clear exploration path. We're going to keep following it. We're going to keep ticking off all the necessary steps to advance Pedra Branca to the next stages. Thank you very much. Taylor?
Perfect. Thanks very much, Douglas. So we will now turn to questions. So please submit any that you may have. To start off, the next phase of exploration at Pedra Branca, is that, are you looking at, obviously you mentioned more drilling. Is there going to be other work such as trenching and other kind of sampling method?
Yes, there is. We are actually going to take advantage of trenching, okay? And we're actually, because it's such a large asset, we have to be very efficient of how we apply cash. Now, again, it's what I said, a major catalyst for Pedra Branca is proving that mineralized trend to the south. I mean, if you can extend that and show that all of a sudden you, instead of having a 2-kilometer vein that we have there, we're going to have a 40-kilometer potential. I mean, that's going to be a huge catalyst. But again, it's so in such large area, you can really spend a lot of money on exploration. So we got to be really smart in what we're going to do. So it is going to be a lot of trenching. It is going to be a little bit of exploration here, but in terms of drilling, a little bit of drilling. But Pedra Branca is an asset that is really limited by the amount of resources that we apply to it. So the more cash we apply to it, the more ounces is going to spit it out. That's what's going to be.
Okay, perfect. We are just out of time, unfortunately. We did have another question come in, but we have to end it there. So thank you very much, Douglas, for presenting South Atlantic Gold to us.
No problem. Thank you very much, Taylor. Thanks everyone for joining.